Hello filmmakers and welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to make a basic foam helmet. I made a video on how to make a foam helmet 4 years ago, and over those years I've learned a lot of new techniques that I want to show you, and I'm going to do that today, right now. So if you guys are ready, let's get started. Here is the basic pattern. Now again, in the earlier videos I used to do this stuff on butcher paper, and I always found that over working with it, poster board is always the best way to go. It's great. So what I've done is I would take, if you download my pattern, before you cut everything out in the pattern, spray the paper very lightly with some Super 77, dust it, lay the paper down onto poster board, take an X-Acto blade, like so, and cut the patterns out. Therefore, you'll have stiff poster board patterns. This makes them easy to transfer onto foam when you're tracing with your Sharpie. So matter of fact, let's show you. We're going to use a standard EVA floor mat foam. Again, this is 1/2 inch. I'm going to lay our patterns down. Now before I used to do straight pins, and I discovered the amazing 1, 2, 3 blocks. These are awesome, and I'll have links for these below the video. A lot of machinists use these, and if you're a costumer or cosplayer, they're great for building because you can put things down and square things up beautifully and easily. But what I like using them for is when you're tracing. Now that we're using poster board, I can just lay this 1, 2, 3 block right here, right there. I know for a fact it's not going to move, my pattern's not going to move, and I don't need to pin it because pinning will leave holes in the foam. Now again, you can patch them with quick seal, but I think it's just a little bit easier and makes things cleaner, especially if you're doing a lot of props. What I like to do, I always like to trace the outside first and then go back in and do the notches. Now I just very carefully place the block over here, over there, like that. Of course, we have our Crenshaw sharpener. I'll have links for this below, and my favorite box cutter. Now, after a while, sometimes you'll find on these blades when you sharpen, they'll start to be a little bit of a curve because you are removing a little bit of metal over the time. So sometimes it's good to change these blades. Now we have our sharpener. Periodically, I like to take a little WD-40 to lube it up, but also to clean it. You put a little WD-40 on both sides. You wipe it off, and if you look, see all that black stuff? That's little bits of metal. So it's always good to periodically clean your sharpener. Now when sharpening, I always like to take the blade, and you look, you don't have to just do a slight, very slight bevel to it. A little bit of an angle. We're sharpening this guy. Sharpen this one, both sides. Get rid of the excess oil. Now, when we go to cut these out, I like to separate them first before we do the detail cutting. So I just take the knife. Now we separate them. The reason I do that is it makes them a lot easier to cut. So when you're rotating, you don't have a giant piece of foam attached to something. You have complete freedom to move this around when you're cutting. So it's always great just to break them up. All right, now we're gonna cut these out. And the reason, again, I cut these out as separate pieces. They're easy to work with. Now, when cutting these parts out, you have to cut them at a 90-degree angle. What I mean by that is you got to make sure that when you're cutting, you make sure the blade, on the top of the blade, you can see it from straight up and down. So when you're cutting, you got that, and there it is. You have a 90-degree angle. Now, what happens sometimes, you have curved parts and things. When you're cutting, people have a tendency to let the blade kind of bend a little bit when you're cutting, and it's tilting. You see more of the side of the blade. What happens is that then you start getting these little bit of a bevel on it. So you got to make sure when you're cutting, even when you're doing a curved piece, try to make sure you keep that blade upright. So when you're turning and turning like that, it still stays at a 90-degree angle. With this wedge, I like to start from the center. Where the corner is, take the blade, walk it back and forth till it touches the table, right? And pull straight out. Same thing to the side. Take the tip, push it back and forth till it touches the table, and go straight out. All right. Get our wedge. And again, you guys notice, make sure you keep that blade upright at 90-degree angle. Straight up and down. And again, people say, you make that look easy, Ted. That's because I've been doing it a long time. Practice does make perfect. Just be patient, stick to it. And the biggest thing is you need a sharp blade. When working with foam, nothing dulls a blade quicker than soft foam. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? That and that. All right, here they are. All our parts are cut out. Now the next step is, this is EVA foam. This is very dense. This is one of the reasons I like this foam. It is dense. So to put this helmet together, we want to do a little heat curling first. You'll find this a lot easier to glue together once you pre-curl things with heat. So for starters, let's do the side of the helmet. Cutting board, if you put heat on it, it's going to warp. So I always get a piece of wood, lay this on there, and take your heat gun and proceed to heat this up. Now, before I heat this up, I like to curl my foam. I made myself, I call a foam anvil. It's just a MDF board with a wood dowel on it, and I epoxied a acrylic dome on it. If you don't have this, that's not a big deal. You can still use a roll of tape and a softball. Like you have like a ball and a roll of tape just to keep the ball from stable. Put it on a table. You just need something curved to push the foam onto. Heat, I like to heat up both sides at the same time. Oh, people ask me what temperature do I like to use my heat gun at? I like it hot. Hot, hot, hot. The hotter it is, the faster it will happen. Now, while it's there, I just do a curl on this edge here and here. And again, you'll find that foam cools very quickly. So while it's still hot, you want to kind of just do this really quickly. Don't wait. So you're done heating, push on there, push it, curl it. There we go, perfect. Now again, I'm going to show you guys this. This curl, it's very slight. It's not a lot. If you guys can look at it, you can see a slight bow to it, and that's all I need. We're going to do the other side. And foam has a tendency to cool quickly. So when heating something like this, I do one side at a time. All we want to do is we just want to put a slight curl to this. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I want to curl this just slightly. But I don't try to heat the whole thing, just one side at a time. So I'm going to start with this side first. Also helps if you just bend it. Just bending it like this helps a lot. Again, when it comes to heat forming foam, I highly recommend a heat gun. I have this one to replace the one I had before I killed. But people always ask me, can I use a hairdryer to shape foam? The answer is no. If you want to heat EVA foam up to 1/2 inch, 10 millimeter, 8 millimeter, I recommend getting a heat gun. You can heat form craft foam and thinner foams with a hairdryer, but if you really want to up your game in cosplay, you definitely need a heat gun. Now that everything is heat formed, we're going to move on to gluing. I like to glue the darts first. So before we do anything else, before you assemble the helmet all together, you always want to focus on the darts. So before attaching these sides to this, all these got to be glued. So we're going to start with these sides on the helmet first. I like to use is Barge cement. Again, in what country or wherever you're at, there's different glues, but long as it's contact cement, I found that most contact cements work fine. You just gotta look in your local country. I'll have a list below the video of all the glues I've discovered from different countries. Other cosplayers have sent me. Now, with gluing something like this, this is where foam scraps come in handy. I have a little cup, and what I make sure is I cut a bunch of them, like little triangles on them, just like that. So I can do this and apply on this side and that side. And then take this piece of foam scrap. You watch here. The trick is I'm just making sure I go all the way down into the cracks and crevices like that. And do the same thing on this side. Spread it down nice and thin. Now with the foam scrap, you're guaranteeing that you're going to get the glue all across the surface that you're gluing, because with contact adhesive, the thinner it is, the better it is. The thinnest you can get it on, the faster it dries, and it distributes the glue all throughout there. So while that's drying, and do the other one too. If it's a little shiny, when you're looking at it, it's still too wet. You want that glue to be almost like a semi-matte, like this side. This side's a little drier. This side's a little bit more to go. I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up with a hairdryer. Okay, again, when I line these up, I always try to make sure it's flush. I start with the top edge first. first. And push. All right, and there it is. Now again, we're going to start. I'm going to start the back, so the front and the back. So we'll just start with the front first. I'm going to apply some glue. And again, everybody has different techniques of how to put glue, and I love the glue pot with the bristles and a brush. I can just lay the glue on pretty quickly and fast and smear it out, because I live in a dry environment, and so for me, contact adhesive dries really quickly. So I have to work quickly. So it's like throw it on with a brush and smooth it out. And a lot of people use some, the squeeze bottles, and everybody has a technique, and it's not a wrong technique or right. It's just what works for you. And I always tell people there's not a right or wrong way to do something. If something works, then it works for you. Definitely. We have this right now, so what we do is let that dry a little bit. So while that's drying, we'll do the back half. Same drill as before. We're going to line up, and again, this is important. These marks, registration marks, so you got to make sure that they touch each other. So when you're pushing up, that is your registration mark. So when you push the two guys together, you want to make sure they line up. And don't expect them to fall up naturally. You're going to have to push and pull sometimes to get these guys to line up. Don't let the foam take control. You are the boss. All right, again, we're starting from the back. Line them up. Now that the top of the helmet is done, what we're going to do next is we're going to put the side piece on. But again, the same drill. We're going to do one side at a time. Here we go. I like the start with the front. We're going to line up, and again, like I'm saying, this is where the registration marks is very important. We're doing two things here. We're making sure we stay edge to edge first, but these marks, make sure they line up. See, I can tell right now I'm going to have to push and pull a little bit to get this guy to line up. This part's going to be a little more difficult, I can tell you right now. So see this mark in here? You have to make sure, so I'm going to have to push in here and pull on this guy to make sure they line up. See? It's going to be tough. Oh, there it goes. All right. But again, I have to push and pull to get it to line up. There it is. Half a helmet. Now I'm going to do the second half. Wow. And there it is. The basic foam helmet. Ding. There it is. The small basic. Let me line this thing up. There's. Boop. Trying to line. Okay. There's my small basic helmet. Again, everybody, it fits my small head, so that's why I end up making a large helmet pattern for the most men out there. This is my helmet to get you guys started. What we're going to do next, we're going to move on to the face shield. So let's go and move on to that. All right, all the parts are cut out. Now, next step is we're going to heat form them. But I figured before we heat form them, there's a little bit of these rough edges back here. So we're going to go ahead and take a rotary tool. Just a quick little cleanup. With heating, you want to make sure you put a board down so you don't warp your table. Okay, now it's time to glue our darts first. Again, we're going to start with the two sides here. Piece of scrap foam. When using a hairdryer to speed up your glue to dry, it's not the heat that makes the glue dry quickly, it's the moving air, because you're using glue. It has a high solvent content in it, so to make the solvent evaporate quicker, it's just using moving air. So not so much the heat, it's the air. So if you have an option on your hairdryer to push it, where it just blows air, definitely do that. It helps the glue dry quicker. Same drills before. We're going to glue them, but we're going to do one side at a time. Again, make sure everything lines up nice and flush. This particular visor, you do a little pushing and pulling on this one. A little tricky, so. All right, here we go. All right, here's a tricky one. Push and pull, make sure it lines up. Now I'm going to do side number 2. We'll let this dry because we're going to go back and heat this up and push it back in shape. All right, let's go back to the helmet again. Now, one thing I like to do, the helmet's been glued together, this set for like 45 minutes. The glue, I know for a fact, is really, really dry. Reheat the foam, and I'll let it relax a little bit, and it'll take more of a little bit of its natural shape. I've always found with anything you're making, patterns and whatnot, glue it all together, and then once the glue dries, you don't want to do it too soon because the heat will make the glue soft and make it reactivate and open. and the seams will start popping apart. So you want to make sure the glue is nice and dry, which just sat more than 45 minutes, so it's really ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and heat this all up. All right, fantastic. That looks great. Like I said, it really has everything kind of rounds up a little bit more. Just gonna set this aside. We're gonna do the same thing with the face shield. The face shield is great. It seems a little wide, which it is. So we're gonna take some of the fight. We're gonna heat this whole thing up and just kind of push it back in shape. And then by doing that, we do this. See, hold it in. That's it. And that's more the shape I wanted. There they are. You have the basic helmet pattern right here. I have my face shield, and I kind of designed it to where it will drop on top of this guy. So you can kind of put them on top of each other you want. Again, you can do this, both these helmets, you can do them with 10 millimeter, 8 millimeter, works pretty well. If you do a visor, sometimes I always find it works better if you do this out of like maybe 8 millimeter, it makes it a little bit thinner and it sits easier on top of the thicker foam. But again, this still works with 1/2 inch foam. These turned out great. Here we go. Got the basic helmet and the face shield. Well, that's it. Wait. I kept this solid so you guys can put in your own viewing slots if you want, so you can make it your own design. You can get these patterns on my website at eviltedsmith.com. And don't forget, everybody, it's the holiday season. It's a great time to do Christmas shopping through my Amazon link. Every little bit of shopping you do through my link helps me keep making videos. Speaking of videos, this video is from my live stream I do on twitch.tv/eviltedsmith every Monday and Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And don't forget, everybody, it's the holiday season, which means Black Friday, which is today. You can go to my store and get my patterns half off. So go there, get the helmet, get the face shield, do your shopping, shop through Amazon. Every little bit helps. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Happy holidays, everyone. And I'll catch you back next time right here on Evil Ted Live.